on decentralized management of segregated organic waste. I am Atim Biswas from the Center for Science and Environment, New Delhi, and I am your anchor for today's event. We received nearly 600 registrations for this webinar from a very diverse audience, ranging from industries, government institutions, municipal authorities, academic institutions, research organizations, NGOs, students, practitioners, individual enthusiasts, which probably goes on saying that the issue of organic waste management indeed is a matter of common concern. Now, let me try and give it a little bit of context before we move on with the other agenda. In India, more than half of our municipal solid waste is organic in nature. And therefore, it is needless to emphasize on why do we need to manage it efficiently. We often say that waste is not waste and it is actually a resource, which is very true. But waste is a resource only when it is managed well. Therefore, a very pertinent question that arises out of this argument is, what exactly are we doing today with our organic waste? How are we managing it? You know, solid waste management has received much needed attention after the flagship Swachh Bharat mission was introduced, back in 2014. And thereafter, Swachh Sarvekshan was introduced in 2016 to evaluate and rank the cities in terms of score and incentivize their sanitation and waste management performance, which was phenomenal. Now, when we analyze the scoring methodology and toolkit that Swachh Sarvekshan have been using, we found that it was putting way more emphasis on cleanliness than sustainable waste management practice. Therefore, about 5 or 6 years of 6 rounds of Swachh Sarvekshan, our cities started looking much cleaner. But the waste, especially mixed waste, with more than half of it being organic, continued to be collected and dumped in dump sites, almost without any form of treatment. And in this process, we have given birth to more than 3,000 man-made mountains next to our cities, with hundreds of millions of legacy waste, leaching, causing greenhouse gas emission, polluting our air, our soil, our water. So if you see and examine this aspect very closely, the problem in our dump sites would not have been so grave if there were no organic waste mixed with the kind of waste that we dump over there. So where exactly is the problem, and why did we think of doing research and release the report that we are going to release today? The answer is fairly simple. Majority of our 4,000 plus cities are having very centralized systems for waste management and having to deal with a colossal volume of municipal solid waste every day. Now, the question that we need to find an answer to is, do we have a way out? Do we have an alternative? Can decentralized systems and technologies be a better choice over the traditional centralized system, which had limited success in the current context of urban organic waste management? Now, the evidence-based learning from the cities, there are not too many cities, but there are some cities that have instituted decentralized system, which tells us that it is far more efficient, effective, economical, environment-friendly, and most importantly, sustainable. So then why decentralized systems are not being mandated, promoted, and instituted in cities where the current system is not much effective? Now, in this webinar, we have the opportunity to contemplate all these issues and questions with a pool of wonderful panelists that we have joined us today. And the panelist brings in decades of experience and expertise in the sector of solid waste management and kind of pioneered promotion of decentralized technologies. And most importantly, they have walked the talk themselves. We are truly privileged to have all the panelists with us, and we shall introduce the panelists to all of you with a brief profile and a little bit of their background as we invite them to speak. Now, let me just give you an idea of the way we have structured this webinar. So there are basically 3 broad sessions. In the first part, we will make a small presentation to share the key findings of the report that we are about to release. In the second part, we are going to have presentations and discussions by panelists on various facets of decentralized management of solid waste with special focus on organic waste. And in the third part, we will take questions from all of you and direct them to the panelists to answer. So keep posting your questions in the question and answer box as soon as the discussion begins. It would be even better if you can mention the name of the panelist that you want your question to answer to. And before I proceed further, if I may invite all the panelists to e-release the report on decentralized management of segregated organic waste. So if I may request all the panelists to just hold the report right next to them. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So the report from this second or this moment, this report is officially released, and it was a privilege to release the report through all of you. So without wasting much time, let me now invite my colleague Shaileshri Tiwari, who is also one of the author of the report, to briefly present the key findings so that we can get an overview of the issues that we will discuss in the following sessions. I will then invite and introduce the panelists to make their presentations. So Shaileshri, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much, Atin. So I'll just share my screen with you all. Yeah, can you all see my screen now? Is it visible to?
Yes, Shaileshri.
Yes, it is visible, Shaileshri. Can you just go full screen? Yeah, wonderful.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Shaileshri Tiwari, working as a program officer in CSC. And today I'll be presenting the key findings of the Decentralized Management of Segregated Organic Waste report, which is authored by me and one of my colleagues, Mr. Subhashish Parida, under my director's guidance, Mr. Atin Biswas. So let's begin. So as we all know that on an average, around 62 million tons of waste is generated in India per annum. And as you can see this pie chart, the major fraction, the 51% of it is organic matter, which is biodegradable and which has a high moisture content. So we can conclude that this major fraction, which is 51%, is nothing but water, followed by 31% inert and 18% recyclables. So now the question comes, what are we doing with our waste? How are we managing it? So if we can see these two snapshots, one is, both of them is taken from the Swachh Bharat Urban Dashboard. And the left one was taken in the month of March, and the right one was taken in the month of August of this year. So in the left one, the waste generation was 51.31 million tons per annum. The waste processing percentage was 68. However, in the right snapshot, the waste generation has reduced to 48.43 million tons per annum, and our processing percentage has gone up to 70%. So even if we are considering that we have reduced our waste from March to August from 58 to 48, and from this, we can only conclude that the waste reduction happens only in the non-biodegradable fraction because of banning of plastic or not using single-use plastics. Otherwise, the organic matter, which is a major fraction, is still point of concern for us. And the next slide, if you see, there are two graphs. One is on your left side is from the CPCB annual report, which shows that 98% of the waste is getting collected, 37% of it is getting processed, and 33% is being sent to landfill. However, on the right side, which is from the ministry data, they say that 100% of the waste is getting collected, 70% is waste is getting processed. However, there is no information about the remaining 30%. We don't know where it's going, what's actually happening to that 30%. And if on the left side graph, if you add this 37 and 33%, which is coming to 70%, is again making us to question the fact that when ministry is saying that they're processing 70%, so what do they mean by it? What involves in the processing? Whether this, is it like they're collecting it and treating it, or is it just they're collecting it and transporting it to the dump site or the landfill and claiming as a processing rate? Because as per the study done by the World Bank, it clearly shows that major fraction, the 77% of our waste is being dumped openly 18% waste is getting composted and only 5% is getting recycled. So with the World Bank study, it also says that in India, there are around 3,159 dump sites, and approximately 23.35 million tons of waste has been dumped in 2019. So without even remediating our legacy waste, we have started dumping the fresh waste next to the legacy waste. And because there's so much discrepancies in the data, there's so mismanagement of the waste is leading us to a situation like this, where you can clearly see, when we know the majority of the fraction is organic in nature, which is nothing but water, which has a tendency to degrade naturally. And when we put this kind of waste into an open place, it under anaerobic condition, it emits methane, which catches fire and causes explosion. And not only it's posing the environmental threat or human impact on us, it's also contaminating the remaining fraction of the waste, which has some value, which has some market value, which can be recyclable. So this scenario is giving us a clear picture what waste management practice do we have, and what we are doing right now is not sustainable. We are just transporting organic waste, which is nothing but water, from point 1 to point B and dumping it next to our places. And that is why we can easily evidently see there's a huge landfill which is as almost equal to the height of Qutub Minar next to our houses, because there's so much mismanagement of data. And that is why it's time that we go for a golden principle, that it's time that we adopt 3R: reduce, reuse, and recycle, which works on the principle of circular economy. As of now, we are just taking, making, and disposing it. It's a very linear. And as my director was mentioning, there's hardly any data about the decentralized units. India, mostly 80 to 80% of our cities having a centralized system in place, knowing that it causing the huge wastage of money, huge wastage of time, and it's not a sustainable solution. Still, we are following the linear economy instead of circular. And that is why it's time that we shift our waste management practice to a decentralized system. Not only it reduces the collection, transportation, and disposal cost, but it can be tailor-made for a certain local context. If you want to set up any decentralized technology based on the local context, its climate, its environment, social factor, you can alter it. And decentralized system also reduces the burden of handling large volume of MSW at a single point, which also lowers the capex and opex. And since these are the very small units, decentralized unit, these can be managed and monitored very easily, which ultimately gives us a better quality of compost, and which is far different from what we are doing right now. And last but not the least, it also reduces the greenhouse gases, which ultimately minimizes the climate change, and that is the need of the hour right now. So what legislative support do we have? We know the benefits of decentralized, but what legal support do we have? So as you all know, that as per SWM 2016, it states clear duties of waste generators, that they need to segregate their waste into different fractions. They have to treat their biodegradable waste on site, either by the composting or biomethanation. They have in the same rule, there's clear duties of local authorities, that local authority must set up a decentralized units close to the market area. They have to give preference to the decentralized when it comes to maintenance, operation, and the infrastructure related. And not only this, under the SWM rule, there is clearly stated that local authority needs to involve community to promote composting and biomethanation. And then we have a city compost policy in India, which is introduced by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs under SPM. So the purpose of this policy was to expand the production and the consumption of city compost. So they have come up with various ideas, like they have directed the fertilizer companies to co-market the city compost with the chemical fertilizers. They have also introduced MDA, Market Development Assistant. Under this assistant, it says that rupees 1,500 per ton of compost subsidy to be given to the manufacturers manufacturers and the marketers of the compost, and they have introduced the internet and the mobile fertilizer system management, through which these manufacturers, these small decentralized manufacturers, can register their stock of the compost, what amount they are generating, how much they are selling it. So when we know that we have rules to support it, we know the benefits of decentralized. Now the question comes how to go ahead with it, how to treat it, what are the methods to treat organic waste. So basically there are only three principles on which, by utilizing which you can treat your organic waste. First is aerobic composting, second is vermicomposting, and the third is anaerobicization. Now, as we all know that we have a waste management hierarchy in which there are different segments. Like first says the source segregation, the second says the reuse, recycle, and recovery. Similarly, in the decentralized, there are various levels. First is household level. So CSE has given listed a few composting technologies. First one is pit composting, second is bucket composting, third is tripod, fourth is pipe, then bokashi, and the last is portable biogas. So this is for the household level, and it usually treats waste up to 1 to 2 kg, and which caters to one household which has a member around 5 to 6 members, and the cost would vary from like 2,000 to 5,000 of these technologies. Now next comes community level. Household you have treated, but then community level. So these are the technology which CSE has studied: rotary drum composting, biobin, and the concrete block composting. So it usually treats waste up to 50 to 100 kg and caters to 50 to 100 households, and the cost and cost varies from 50,000 to 1 lakh. After the community level composting, next come ward level composting. So CSE has listed down these three: aerated static pile composting, biogas plant, and vermicomposting. So usually this technology can treat waste up to 1 TPD to 5 TPD and caters to household from 1,000 to 5,000 households, and cost is range within 10 lakhs to 50 lakh. And the next is cluster of ward, which we also known as zone level. So here we have given two technology options: multiple tub composting and windrow composting. And in the windrow composting, it can treat waste above than 5 TPD, and it caters to household above 5,000, and the cost can go up to above 5 lakhs, 50 lakhs. So now we know that these are the few technology which we have given in our reports. However, there are millions and many technologies available out there, but they all work in the three same basic principle. It can be either aerobic composting or vermicomposting or anaerobic composting. So before you select your technology for either for household, ward, or community or zone, you need to factor the environmental, technical, and social parameters. Because for example, if I want to do a composting for my home and I live in a rural place, so I'll get a matka very cheap there. I might get it at the cost of rupees 50. Whereas the earthen pot, that matka, if I'm in the metropolitan city, I might get it in 200 or 150, where I can easily get a bucket. So instead of going for matka composting, I might go for a bucket composting, since the material which is available there is bucket, and I know it comes cheaper as compared to the matka. So the same thing happens when you do it for ward, community, or zone level. You have to understand the availability of your materials. You have to see the land availability. You have to see the techno feasibility, climatic condition, your waste stream, and then you have to select the appropriate decentralized technology for your respective levels. So what are the key challenges do we face when we implement the decentralized? The first one is source segregation. And as we all know that source segregation is the heart of the whole waste management practice. The moment you stop segregating your source, you're gonna pay till the end of your processing phase of your phase of your treatment. So and not only you're gonna pay for it, you're wasting your time and money, but also you're contaminating the rest fraction if you're not segregating your waste. Now the next challenge is lack of technical guidance. So it has been observed that many people, even at the community level, they have opt for a very energy intensive technology, which is not even required. They could have gone for a basic simple technology, either pit composting or bucket composting. But since there's a lack of guidance to them, they don't know well versed with the subject, they don't know what to do, which technology to adopt. And such lack of technical guidance results into your third challenge, that is low quality of compost. Since you are not segregating your waste properly, you don't know the mechanism of the composting, you don't know when moisture goes high what to do, when pH goes low what to do, and it reaches to your to the low quality of compost. And earlier, as I was saying, that we have a policy in place. However, in the policy there's no incentives for the sale of city compost from the decentralized technologies unit. And again, the policy gives the MDA as a subsidy. However, the process of claiming subsidy itself a very tedious process. It's very lengthy and very restrictive process. The next challenge is reluctance of fertilizer company. So policy says that the fertilizer company need to co-market the city compost with their chemical fertilizers. But the fertilizer, under the fear of losing their buyers, reducing their market, they don't want to go for it. They still go for chemical fertilizers. And the next is low trust among the consumers. There is no awareness given to the farmers and the consumers about the city compost. They don't know they don't know the benefit of the city compost, and that's why they don't want to go for city compost. They still believe in the urea or the chemical fertilizer, which overall contributes to absence of market, which does not create the market for the city compost, and which leads to a absence of market. And sometimes these key challenges, when there's a reluctance of the fertilizer company, low trust by the among the consumers, absence of market, sometimes leads to a situation when you need to shut down your decentralized unit. Now, how to start with it? What should be our first step? So you can see the Odisha has shown us a very good example by issuing an order in the year of 2019, directing all the cities to cancel all the tenders that are not in line with the decentralized technology. They have given a clear mandate to adopt a decentralized system. So such kind of practice needs to replicate in all the cities. Like there should be mandate first. When we know that this centralized system, our current waste management system, is costing us too much, is wasting our resources, our money and time, and leading us to a situation when we have a huge landfill or dump site next to our houses. So at least now city and the government should take a stand, and they should make it a mandate that every city should only have a decentralized unit and they should not have any centralized units. Now, these are the few recommendations for the policy reforms. First is to promote source segregation. Definitely, if you want to promote source segregation, you have to give incentives and subsidies. The moment the less waste someone is given, the more tax rebate should be given to that person. Next is community engagement. The community should know why it's happening, what is happening. Otherwise, they'll show no interest in it. You have to engage everyone, be it the youth or the RWA members, involve all the communities. Now, next is revised contracts. As we know that mostly our contracts are based on the quantum of waste collected, whereas it should be the quantum of waste processed and treated. This revised contract will ensure that we'll get a better feed for the composting, which automatically gives a better quality of compost. Then enact bylaws. There is no talk about the penalty. What is when someone is not segregating? What is someone is not decentralizing, treating waste in a decentralized manner? So there should be clear penalties for non-compliances. Then recognize best practices. The government should facilitate the model school, the panchayat, the BWGs or RWGs, because such thing encourage others also to follow it and give a sense of proudness and satisfaction to the one who are practicing it. And last is continuous IEC. It shouldn't be like once you initially you did the IEC and everything, and by the the event or this your source segregation accelerated, you have stopped it. No, it should be a continuous process. Everyone should keep on reminding it they need to segregate their waste into 2 section, 3 section or 4 section. Now next come the ensure the quality of compost. First thing should be amendments in the current FCO norms for city compost. We all know that every city there are various technology options available out there, and city adopts different technologies, and different standards and results come, it varies with the type of technology you uses. So there should be a great system or different section for the compost also, so that it will promote reverse the industry to push the composting. Then second is comprehensive assessment. As I was saying, that suppose Odisha is doing a biogas decentralization, and Kerala also wants to do it. So Kerala is, without even knowing the what kind of waste they are generating, what is the composition of the waste, what is the characterization of their waste, whether there's end use of this technology, they just simply adopted the what Odisha was doing and it was successful there, that's why they adopted in their city. No, it shouldn't be like that. It should be you first know your waste, you know what kind of composition it has, and accordingly you go for a technology, and that will definitely lead you to a better quality of compost. Next comes establishing testing frequency. Since we know that in many places it has been observed that these manufacturers and design units, they do a testing of one batch and they show it for a consecutive batches for the multiple years. Like going forward, they just show it one test result for the all the batches. This should not be happen. There should be a frequency. Like if your tonnage is 1 kg or 2 kg, your testing number should be this much. The government should implement this, the testing frequency. And since you are encouraging the more testing, and for a fact we know that the testing of compost, it's not it costs you a lot. So there should be some subsidy given to these manufacturers by the government. There should be subsidy for this compost testing. Next is to create demand. This is the whole heart of the whole decentralized. Like first you have to establish a take back scheme. Either this local body take back from these manufacturers, or make a scheme like every city has millions of every city has many departments and many offices, government offices. So we have to make a mandate that these departments every month or quarterly should take a city compost from these number of manufacturers for their gardening, for their office gardening. And next is adopt different models. So it has been observed that standalone model does not work. It has to be either municipality owned or community operated. It can be municipality operated or privately owned, because you need someone to look after it. The maintenance operation needs to be monitored regularly, and that's why the government should adopt any model for it. Then set a target for fertilizer companies. Even the government has directed the fertilizer companies to co-market the city compost, but it still has been observed that it's not been practicing very well. So it's clear target that this month and this semester you have to buy this much compost from the city compost from the manufacturers. Then awareness among the consumers. As I was telling, there is hardly any awareness given to the farmers and the consumers, which that is why they don't know the benefits of our city compost, how important, how beneficial it is, and they still go for a chemical fertilizers. And last is agriculture department. Since we have given target to fertilizer companies that this much quantum of city compost they should buy from the manufacturers, there should be clear target for the there should be a clear target from the agriculture department that they should ensure that these fertilizer companies sell this compost along with their chemical fertilizers. And last is to ensure longevity of the decentralized units. First thing you need to do is register each and every decentralized unit. Unless and until you don't know how much number of decentralized units you have in your ULP and city, you won't be able to monitor it. You won't be able to keep a track of it. So continuous monitoring by the local authorities is necessary. And we have observed that many decentralized units, which is either municipality owned or privately operated, they have adopted such energy intensive technologies which was not required in that unit. The waste can be treated with the very basic method. Still they have gone for a very automated mechanized technology without even knowing by the local authority. So to avoid such practices, the proposal should be either sent to local authority or state pollution control board for their approval and for the examination at least. Then next is submission of records. Definitely, unless until you don't submit how much waste you, how much organic waste you are getting, what quantum of compost you are generating, no one will be able to understand whether this plant is actually functional, or not. So to monitor such thing, there should be a clear by either by monthly or bi-monthly submission of records to the local authority. And last but not the least, that local authorities should provide technical guidance. There is hardly any city and ULB who have a subject expert, those who know about the composting, don't know what are the pros and cons of particular decent technology and treatment option. So the local authorities should provide technical guidance to in each and every city. That's all from my side. Thank you, Ade.
Thank you so much, Shailashri. Could you please stop sharing your screen?
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a very crisp and very to the point presentation, which basically highlights the key findings from the report. Now, let me bring in our first panelist, Dr. Lakshmi Ragupathi. Let me just ask the question that Dr. Raghupati may answer. And before Dr. Raghupati takes over, I would request my colleague Shailashri to kind of introduce her to all the participants. So Dr. Raghupati, my question, which is very connected to what Shailashri has mentioned in our presentation, that we had legal mandates or advisories by virtue of the solid waste management rule 2016. So decentralized approach and technology, it secured very little buy-in from majority of the cities across the country. So having observed the limited success of centralized approach, and again, we had that traditional challenge of source segregation that led to rampant dumping of mixed waste. So what, according to you, should be the strategy and the kind of policy reform to institute decentralized systems of waste management with special focus on the wet waste? And I have a connected question with this for you, which is related to the compost. So despite this compost being produced in a very large quantity, I mean, we have visited many such facilities. Obviously, there are some challenges in connection with the quality of the compost because they are barely monitored. So but even for the compost, which are of good quality, which are in compliance with the standard that Government of India has prescribed, this compost are struggling to find a sustainable market. Even the MDA scheme, the Market Development Assistance Scheme introduced by MOFCC, also had limited success. So how to make it work? How do we promote this thing, popularize and propagate this thing even among the farmers and common people like us? But before you answer your question, Shailashri, if you could please introduce Dr. Lakshmi Ragupathi to all our participants.
Yes, definitely. So Dr. Lakshmi Ragupathi, she is an environmental scientist with 4 decades of experience in the area. She is a former director, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, where she evolved the waste management policies, regulation, and was responsible for its enforcement of these. Presently, she is working as a visiting faculty in Terry School of Advanced Studies and Sciences, and she is also an independent advisor and consultant in various several organizations.
Thank you, Shailashri. Over to you, Dr. Raghupati.
Thank you, Shailashri, and thank you, Atif, because it's a real good opportunity for me to be with you all, because I had been associated with waste management, as I said, for 4 decades now. I was there was a forerunner to this 2016 regulation. Shailashri's presentation has been very good, and the report I really appreciate. The report is really worth, because I had been always making a request when I was in the committee to make those bulky documents of manuals with the MOUD. I used to say nobody will turn even one page. This one will make people at least look at it, go through it, and it's very crisp and a lot of diagrams, a lot of graphical presentations, which is required in India. So I really first I must congratulate you for this report and appreciate it, and appreciate your idea to bring it out today. I have been looking forward to such crisp documents for people to really practice. That has been one of the major disadvantages that has been there. So I will just give a little brief history. Like in 1999, Almitra Patel made a PIL on solid waste management, because from the Bhopal Gas Commission and then EP Act in 1986, we started working towards industrial waste. We never bothered about industrial and hazardous waste were our forte, but we never bothered about solid waste. She alerted us with the solid waste problem. She said it's going to grow more. And even today, she keeps telling me it's going to be more problematic if people are not doing this, not doing that. So I'll try to see how do we cover up, because your questions have been very pertinent towards that aim of how do we do it. So when we first brought out the regulations in 2000, it had a very similar agenda, which is there in today's 2016. The difference is that in 2000, when 2000 rules were brought, immediately in 2000, the manual was also prepared by MOUD, and everything was resting in the shelf. It was not brought to the forte so that people understand. But there have been some active pockets in India, like Bhopal was there, Pune was there, then Bangalore. I'm just mentioning a few because across the country, there were about hundreds of small cities, big cities, where there was activity, very visible activity to see what the rules are, how do we go about, how do we manage the waste so that we become one of the #1 cities. At that time, there was no survection and there was no award, but still people did with their own personal motivation. So because Bangalore was one of the first champions in this, because the Center of Science Education was there. So the CE office was there. CE people were really driving them in Jayanagar, Vijayanagar, even in the central Bangalore. So there was a lot of work that was there. Similarly, in Bhopal, because of Bhopal happened, there was a lot of consciousness effort. They said even this waste can cause some casualties. So that's why they ran into that system of saying that, okay, we will try to see how do we manage this waste. So as far as your question is concerned, so I've just said that this was already there, but only thing is it was not brought to the forefront. Now, what happened after 2016 rules? Shailshri has made my work very easy because she has already given almost all the insight into the regulations. So I'm not going to speak because she knows that I will take something else in a different direction. So I'm just taking in a different direction, because in 2016, after that, we had series of workshops. The Ministry of MOUD, we had a lot of Swachhta workshop, and I was also Swachh Bharat Mission member, and I was a resource person in those workshops. We had 5-day workshop, intense workshop for the ULBs, which was held in a center. Then subsequently, there were regional workshops, regional programs and workshops. We didn't call them training program. Actually, it was a training program. We didn't call them training program. Otherwise, people have a little inhibition on that. We said, workshop, you also come participate. And in that program, everyone was taken to the site. In Delhi, though it's a sorry site of Ghazipur or others, we have taken. But we have also shown them the good housekeeping activities, what we are talking about, the decentralized activity. So the same group of people saw what happens when it is a centralized thing, the consequence, and what happens when it is decentralized. All those residential colonies and institutions where there was a local management of the waste, especially the organic waste, and there was a commendable activity on segregation. So first thing they started is segregation. So the segregation was there. Then they were handling very small quantity of waste for their management. And this organic waste used to reduce to such a small quantity, to 20 to 30% of the whole waste, that they were really surprised that particular thing, when you inject the organisms, they are really the quantity is reduced, because after all, it's moisture. The moisture goes, then there is a substantial amount, all that is manure. So there was a visible activity in terms of composting. Now comes the other part of it, the anaerobic digestion. That was there in the legacy sites. That is still going on. That was there in the legacy sites. So these are the things which were, when we looked at, when we went to the people, when we penetrated to the system, people were understanding. So one of the things that is, as Shailshri has also pointed out, you had also said, source segregation. If we segregate our waste, as you see, much of the waste which can be recycled and which can be a source of resource. And if you would have seen the 2016, another mandate which I had, my favorite is waste hierarchy. I say you put the waste hierarchy in place. So waste management hierarchy has been put in place in solid waste, hazardous waste, plastic waste, everywhere in all these new 2016 regulations. Because if we say we start with the pyramid of minimizing the waste, concept of minimizing, and then come down to what is the last one which we have to deal with. Once we are able to bring that sort of a thing, minimizing waste at source is one of the important things. How do we reduce? If we want to consume this, if we want to take this, what do we do? And so there is a sort of wisdom in thought. So this wisdom in thought moved, and it has really created, inculcated in a lot of communities, and people are doing it. But only thing, what you asked is that the whole pickup system, if you say do segregation at home, the source segregation, they'll say, give us the colored bags, you give us the colored buckets, we give us the thing. So they will expect the government to give them everything. Nobody will go saying that, let's do it. Some communities where the communities took the initiative, there it has worked. So these are some of the things where there are impediments created by their own people, though they want to do it, but they are not doing it because it's sort of the resistance, which Shalshi mentioned about the resistance. The resistance is because they still wait for the thing to come to them. So they don't take initiative, but once they take initiative, it is really a big thing that happens. So once there is a source segregation, they have to deal with recycling and other things for a small quantum of waste. As she showed, 51% is your organic waste, which has to be either composted or biodegraded. Biomethanation. So composting is something which you can do. And she had also shown the commercial, the bigger one, the bigger and bigger your ward and per city, your home composting, city composting, ward composting, etc. The magnification. And we have still not understood that concept that we can have certain bigger requirements if there is a bigger demand. But when we do the segregation, then only we'll know. Once it is a bigger one, I have dealt with so many of these vendors. They are only greedy for the quantum of waste. So because that quantum of waste, they mix the waste. They take mixed waste. They accept mixed waste. So how can you do a composting? How can you do biomethanation? It's impossible. So that scale of operation we should really prohibit. So in fact, there should be some clause in the regulation itself. As you said, the policy we can reformulate saying that there has to be a minimal amount of waste which should be reached, and that should be qualified to reach that place where it can be handled as far as the ward or a pager facility is concerned. Otherwise, it should be dealt with at the local level. And local level, obviously, we have certain local problems. Some places, if you go to Bengal side, there will be more of meat and fish waste. If you go to some part of UP side, it will be more of vegetables and milk and other products. Gujarat, it will be again vegetarian. So if you look at that, then even the treatment will be dependent on that. What sort of a treatment we have to give? So it becomes localized problem. So it will become very easy to handle and localized problem. I know Vani is doing it at her doorstep itself. So that's how we should start. And Vani is one of the good initiators. I had been seeing her videos, I'd been seeing, and Shamla has been communicating me about you. So it's really something, charity begins at home. So segregation at source is one of the important things. Before segregation, also you should think, which are the waste which I should reduce, which I can reduce, which I should not bring it for a disposal. So, or even processing or even recovery. Recovery comes later. The other aspect which we had, two things which we are which are missing here. One is I'll come to the marketability part of it in a very brief way, because even till now we are struggling with it. But as far as the operations are concerned, we are not able to even see that there is a need to organize the things in a manner such that it flows out. So first workshop, second workshop, third workshop, everybody used to say, oh, we give a segregated waste. It gets mixed up at the end of the room. So that is the problem. That problem should not happen, because everybody down the line in the community, from the or up the line, we should say they should be informed what is to be done. So that means awareness. Awareness becomes a very big information, and those which are successful, especially in Gurgaon, Delhi, and in Bhopal, and of course we went to a few places because we couldn't travel much because there were many people we identified locally. And then another thing is convincing approach, that if you speak a local language, if you go to Bengal, you speak Bengali. If you go to Karnataka, you speak Kannada. If you go to Kerala, you speak. So this is very important to make them understand and make them feel homely, that you're not pursuing anything bad for them, you're pursuing something good for them. And everybody, I have seen the pipe composters in Kerala, a lot of them had problem. Because a lot of them asked me, when I went there, I went for my personal work, they asked me, you're a person who is dealing with it, so why don't you tell us? Then I said, you have so much of moisture, there is so much of water logging in this area, your pipe will not work. So you remove that, you allow it to drain, there should be a facility for draining. And so there are simple requirements that has to be told, and that has to be told in their local language, then they understand. This is one of the approaches. As far as the strategy is concerned, as of now, the policy, the rules are there, the guidelines are there. There are documents like this. Of course, there are few documents which have been prepared like this, in this manner. Otherwise, they're all bulky. We should see that, we should work out the hierarchy of principles. Who will do what? Role assignment is very important. Even in the government system, it's not there. All the states were required to prepare their national waste management policy, aligning with the sanitation policy. They have not done. They were supposed to bring out the bylaws. I have prepared 14 bylaws for 14 different states and some cities also. So bylaws was to be prepared. Bylaws were prepared for the formality sake. They are lying in the shelf. Bylaws, why do we do bylaws? Because they will give a specific prescription for that place. It will make it work. And I'll tell you, I'm very disappointed with Swachhta Sarvekshan also, because Swachhta Sarvekshan is being done to hurry up, finish it off. This is to be done with this day. It's not a real Sarvekshan, real examination, real scrutiny. If it is done, we'll come out. We should know our mistakes so that we don't commit. That mistakes have not been done. Now, as far as the compost selling, marketing is concerned, we have not stopped the chemical fertilizers. We are still selling them at peanut cost. So every agriculturist thinks that if you put those chemicals, things will grow faster, things will be better, and it's cheaper, and no matter how they do it. And I know, I have been in my class also, I say, you have to measure, you have to prepare. Now, if we have the sodium hypo for the COVID, we say 2%. Do we use 2%? Yes, because now everything is precise. But in the fertilizer case, they just fill it with their hands. There's no measurement. Okay, the packet is over, next packet comes. So they do it. So there is an excessive load of chemicals that are coming in. And they think that chemicals are working. Unless you make them unless you convince them that this is your natural way to grow, they will themselves start producing compost. They will not ask you for compost. Once they know that they have to do it. There's a hell of a lot of difference between South and North. In South, they do their own fertilizers. They make their own compost. They use it in the agricultural field. Unless there is a dire activity, the dire need for a specific chemicals, they don't get chemicals easily. So there is in real remote rural villages, they use their own compost. That is why they use it in their agriculture land. Another one in this one, because basically we have certain, in the solid waste, it's not just compartmentalized solid waste or organic waste. We are telling in a compartmentalized manner. But if we are able to, sorry, I kept my timer so that I don't exceed my time. So just one more minute I'll take.
Yeah, please.
Another thing I want, it's not India is a very big country. High variation is there in terms of topography, climate, and the vegetation, environment, and the community and the social system. So everything is different across the country. So we have to be very much localized. Your approach to have a decentralized thing It has to be, it cannot be prescriptive across the country. It has to be very, very localized, everybody should generate their own ideas to put it back. So we should only stimulate them to put the ideas. So what is it? Now, as far as I was telling Shailshri also, there is a little more focus required on the biomethanation, because anything which is not suitable for composting should also go for biomethanation. You can make it anaerobic easily. The aerobic is difficult because you have to have the dry constituent. If there is a moisture inadvertently, like you have in the legacy sites, etc. If there is any higher moisture content, even otherwise it happens in the plant material, in the animal, especially the food material, cooked food, etc. We should have. And I had been to a number of small colleges in Rajasthan, in Haryana and all, where they have their own kitchen waste, the food waste, especially people who waste their food on the plates, all that goes for biomethanation. They get gas, they produce gas. They've started producing gas for making some tea. Later on, it grew to breakfast. Later on, it grew to the evening tiffin. And some of the colleges have gone for full lunch, breakfast, tiffin, everything. So for their through their biomethanation plant. And these are small, decentralized plants. They don't have, that's a institutional level plant. And they're all engineers. So it's very easy for them to run the plant. So they know what to do, and they have. And when it comes to a sort of shortage of waste, they also take waste from the cow dung and other sources. So they make it profitable. And also they save on the gas, the gas which we purchase, the non-renewable sources. So this is one of the things. So I think these two are very important. And when we come to the marketability, we should first start with the charity. We should give them for a norm. We shouldn't say free. Don't give free. We should give them a small amount. If they are paying 12 rupees for NPK, you ask them to pay 6 rupees for your compost. It will work. So the economy also plays social, economic, and also there's their will. So that community is something where if one does, everybody will. Just like the monkey story, you throw the cap, everybody will throw. So that's the story. Ultimately, we are like that. So we have to make the imitation as one of the principles. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raghupathy. It couldn't be simpler and stronger. Very clear and strong message and excellent analysis of the situation. Let me now move to our next panelist, Dr. Nagraj, DG Nagraj. Dr. Nagraj basically represents the Mysuru City Corporation. So let me just ask the question to Dr. Nagraj first, and then I'll request Shaileshri to introduce him before he speaks. So Dr. Nagraj, Mysuru City is definitely having one of the better models of waste management, which is mostly based on decentralized approach and technology. Now, what was the journey like, and when did you realize that decentralized approach is a better solution? And I have a connected question, like what are the challenges that you had to face, and what strategy did you adopt to kind of address those issues? And if you could also highlight what benefit the decentralized system has brought to Mysuru City, Mysuru Municipal Corporation, so that maybe the other city corporations can take a cue from you and start doing it themselves. So Shaileshri, if you could introduce Dr. Nagraj, please.
Yes. Dr. Nagraj is a Chief Health Officer in Mysuru City Corporation and Nodal Officer for Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and plays an instrumental role in achieving the objects of SBM Mysuru, and being the Mysuru the only city to rank in the top 10 cities under such survection. Under his supervision, he ensures that the city keeps following source segregation with public participation and establishes sustainable decentralized waste management innovations.
Over to you, Dr. Nagraj.
Thank you. Once again, good afternoon, everybody. My heartily pranamas to Hatim Vishwas sir, Shaileshri madam, and my co-panelist, Dr. Lakshmi Ragupathi ma'am, Vani Murthy ma'am, and Saurabh Kumar. Indeed, Mysuru City Corporation has been a partner, and we are proud to associate with CSC from last 6-7 years. So we are regularly working with the CSC's research guidance, and we are regularly associated with all the best innovations, and maybe it may be the decentralized waste management. And we are one of the top 20 cities who had a regular, we shared that platform of cities that segregate under CAC. So we regularly used to interact, and it's been a very much this thing, learning is more of educative associating with CSC, and we are proud to say that we have adopted some of the best innovations. And Mysore city is known for its cleanliness. Maybe the first survey is the cleanest city in the entire country for 2 consecutive years. And as rightly said, we are very much concentrating on decentralized waste management models, and which is one of the sustainable models. So right now, Mysore city has been adopted all these decentralized waste management in different parts of the city, and under a very sustainable manner. So all the I would like to highlight all these finer aspects how Mysore city has been able to hold on the sustainable practices, especially in the decentralized solid waste management. So I just like to tell you about the city profile. Mysore is the second largest city in the state of Karnataka, and it's a capital of the former state of Mysore. And it's spread across an area of 128.42 kilometers. It's mainly an educational, commercial, and administrative center, along with the tourist and heritage center. It's situated around 140 kilometers from Bangalore, and it's a major tourism hub. And right now, it's associated with the IT sectors, and has been emerged as a major employer alongside with the traditional industries. So right now, the population as per 2011 census, we have around 8,93,000. But right now, including the peri-urban population, it's around 13 lakh. And Mysore city has around 65 wards, and the administrative zones are 9 administrative zones. These 65 wards are administered by 9 centralized, decentralized zones, so administrative offices. And we have around 2,15,000 system households, and we have non-residential, that commercial properties around 31,946. And our waste generation is somewhere around 550 tons right now, 550 tons per day. So regarding planning and development of Mysore, Mysore is a planned city, I should say, right? Planning started right in the middle of the 19th century. So our municipal committee for administration purposes was formed in the year 1862. And our sanitary region was started in the year 1885. And the city got its first urban planning in the year 1903. That is the City Improvement Trust Board. The CITB was formed way in the year 1903. And the streetlights were provided in the year 1908. And we had the first UGD system. We had a unique UGD system introduced in the year 1910 itself, 1910. And the comprehensive daily scheme was then executed by Sri M. Visheshwaraya, in the Chief Engineer of Royal Mysore State, Prince State. And our City Improvement Trust Board was again formed in the year 1903. And Mysore City got this city corporation in the year 1976. And right now we are governed by Karnataka Municipal Corporation Act 1976. So I should say Mysore has made it clean because ours is an open defecation free. You have 100% UGD connections. And Mysore was the issue. I should be probably declare that Mysore was the first open defecation free city, first millennial city. And we received the award from the Honorable Prime Minister in the year 2017. And we have a proper sanitation and hygiene. As I was saying, we have 100% UGD connections, even in the peri-urban areas also. So we have efficient sewage and drainage system and efficient solid waste management. So we have adopted all the bylaws and the solid waste management 2016. And even before the plastic waste management rules, which was notified from the Karnataka government, Mysore had declared, Mysore City Corporation has declared Mysore City as a plastic-free city way in year 1915. And we are proud to say that Mysore has been a flex-free city. So we always discourage people using flex banners and other, even for the political parties. And when if at all they want to use any advertisement or any political parties to come up with their banners, they should take permissions, and that too, and the permission is given for just one day. And we are very actively involving ICF. The public participation is a key role, which plays a community participation. which plays a key role in the sustainable practices. So most of our decentralized waste management are managed by the resident welfare associations and the Sri Shakti Sanghas and some of the reputed companies which are under CSR. They are supporting the decentralized waste management models, and in that way we are able to sustain these best practices, and we are very successfully handling the decentralized waste management right from the year 2008. And we have been providing as Mysore City Corporation our obligated duties, that is safe, quality, and sufficient drinking water supply. And coming to municipal solid waste management, so this is how the way how we are practicing. So source segregation, as ma'am was telling, we have 100% door to collection, and we always insist, and we are practicing 100% source segregation. So that has been the primary objective of how we are achieving the decentralized waste management. Just highlighting my latest slides, how we are able to practice it. And as I was telling, primary collection. So we do collect the door-to-door collect whatever waste is collected, and we are
Dr. Nagaraj, we are having some issues to kind of hear you properly. If I may suggest, if you could turn off your video as long as you are speaking, then probably your audio will come better. I think we have lost him for a while. Okay, he's back. So, Dr. Nagaraj, can you hear me?
So again, city is practicing secondary segregation at the decentralized level. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible now, sir. But if I may request you to just turn off your video.
I'm hearing you.
Yeah. So you can please turn off your video, then your audio will be better, because we are having intermittent problem with your audio. Sometimes the audios are missing. Yes. So as long as you are speaking, you can keep your videos off. And then once you're done with the presentation, you can turn on your video again.
That's fine, sir. That's fine.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
We are able to do secondary segregation at the decentralized manner, and resource recovery is very good. And we have around 41 dry waste collection centers spread across the city. And I think every out of 65 wards, every alternative ward has a dry waste collection center, and we have made it very popular. So the people come from their households, whatever dry waste collected, or whatever it may be, newspaper or pet bottles or whatever RDF non-biodegradable material, that they come and deposit, and they get a recovery, that they get a good resource recovery. And these are all handled by our power carmakers. So whatever resources and whatever the revenue generated from those dry waste collection centers from that particular ward, that goes to the power carmakers, and indeed that has been a very successful model. Thereby we are able to get a good dry waste resource recovery. And regarding processing, we have a 200-ton processing plant. That is, we are daily processing around 200 tons and generating around 35 tons of organic compost, city compost, and that is also that has been very successfully, and so only model in the entire country, I should say, which was started in the year 2010, and right now the ILFS is handling it, and it's the only plant which is O&M is done on CSM model. So right now we are not paying any tipping fees, or so they're able to get a good amount of city compost. They're generating around 35 tons daily. So our segregation levels are good, and indeed they've been able to achieve this progress. This is what I was saying. The waste generation right now it's around 550 tons. So we have a centralized compost plant of 200-ton capacity, and we have 70 waste managements. That is what we call as decentralized waste management models. So which are handling around 35 tons. All these 70 waste management plants or decentralized management plants are located very well in the middle of the residential areas. So I would just highlight them, highlight the features in the later slides. And as I was telling, there are 43 dry waste collection centers in different parts of the city, which have been a very successful model, and are handling these 43 dry waste collection centers. And we have a landfill, a centralized scientific landfill handled by JESCO company, where we had an initial MOU of 90 tons per day. Right now, after 2014, we are minimizing the inerts sent to the sanitary landfill. So almost we are cutting down the, we are planning, and we are right now, we are giving only around 45 tons of inerts to the sanitary landfill site. And we are promoting on-site composting. So this is one of the important concepts what we are promoting from last 2 years. So right now we have identified different bulk waste generators. So maybe around 50 to 100 tons. We are not just sticking on to 100 tons per day, 100 kgs per day, even 50 to 100 kgs. We are going them, we are convincing them, we are educating them, we are handholding them, and we are asking them to adopt on-site composting. So right now we have 3 markets, major mandis. All the 3 markets have started on-site composting, and they're generating a very good city compost, which is very much appreciated by the locals, and we have a good marketing for that. And 3 institutes have been identified, and 5 apartments they do practice on-site composting, and we have identified 10 hotels. So these all regularly they have adopted this on-site composting, and we have identified some informal waste pickers. So we have given them the identity cards, and Hasirudala has taken the charge of handling these informal waste pickers, and we give them identity cards. And under the 24.1 program, we have been able to handle them by giving loans. And so we are purchasing the dry waste from the rack pickers, and even we have involved them in our compost plant. So whatever dry waste, whatever resource recovery can be set up there, the rack pickers are being involved in that process. So I'm just talking about the scalable best practices. That is the zero waste management units. So these are also called the decentralized waste management models. So it was started in the year 2010 under J&M scheme, and totally 9 zero waste plants are there in different parts of the city. And each zero waste management is handling daily 5 tons of dry waste, and 5 tons of dry waste, and 5 tons of wet waste. So the inert or residue or whatever non-recyclables is very minimal. So we are very successfully handling, because if there is 100% source segregation, we are ensuring 100% source segregation. So we are handling daily 5 tons of organic waste, but that is the wet waste, and whatever dry waste is separately collected. It's being given back to the recyclers, and only by this practice we are able to minimize the RDF material. I should say it is around 2 to 4%, which is sent to the landfill. So initially it was everything was going to the open dump. So we have definitely from the year 2008, we have been successfully handling all these 9 zero waste management units. So they are doing in a very good. Of course, they are successfully handled until today. So the infrastructure and vehicles was provided by MCC. So the O&M, the operation and maintenance, that was what I was insisting. The community participation is very important. So in handling, Mysore City Corporation has successfully handled it and educated and trained all these NGOs, self-help groups, and Sri Shakti Sanghas. So the resident welfare association of that particular zone, of that particular decentralized waste management unit, the people from those areas have been involved. So the community is very proactive, and that is the way how we are able to promote source segregation. So the Sri Shakti Sanghas, the members, they daily visit the houses. They regularly give awareness, and wherever the segregation is for, they regularly visit them, convince the people. Even in the slums, we are able to do 100% source segregation. So that has been the successful model. The resident welfare associations and the Sri Shakti Sanghas, they are handling all these 9 zero waste management models. So Mysore City Corporation is handholding the these zero waste management by giving monetary support. That is, we are paying them 1 lakh per month, and whatever resources, it may be the city compost or whatever the dry waste recovery, that so revenue is taken by the self-help groups.
Dr. Nagaraj, we are running a little behind
Yeah,
time.
I
If you
will,
can wind
yeah,
up in a minute or something.
I will
That'll be good.
complete in a minute or two.
Yeah, thank you.
So these zero waste management facilities are located very well in the residential areas. So we have given them the infrastructure, we have given them the sheds, that is a receiving, segregation, processing, and storage, and they are practicing aerobic composting, and the expenses are borne by expenses are borne by the NGOs or the resident welfare associations, and we have a financial support from MCC. Now we are paying them around 95,000 per month, and whatever revenue generated by sale of recyclables, that is around 15 to 30,000. That revenue is shared around the NGOs or the resident welfare which are handling the zero waste management units. So every zero waste management unit is having handling around 3 to 4 wards. So nearly 10,000 houses. They're handling the wet waste and the waste. So this is one of the units. And Mysore, one of the zero waste management unit was given the award from the ministry. And just highlight the salient features. The segregated municipal solid waste, that is a waste and wet and dry waste, are being collected from nearly 10,000 houses. And further secondary segregation of dry waste is ensured there. The wet waste is converted to organic manure, and even we are cow dung slurry is sprinkled over the wet waste. That is the aerobic composting regularly what we practice. And this is one of the important features. The dry waste is further segregated into 25 to 30 categories, and it's sold to the recyclable units. And this is one of the best example, I should say, regarding the public PPP model. And we have involved the self-help groups and Sri Shakti Sanghas to enhance source segregation. That is, they regularly visit the houses and ensure source segregation, and regular monitoring also. They will create awareness to the residents about source segregation and other best practices. So this is some of the pictures where we ensure different categories of dry waste. Again, into different 24 categories, and regularly we have meetings with my municipal officials. We meet these NGOs and we have regular interactive sessions. So if anything support needed from my city corporation or any thing needed to be handled, we regularly conduct meetings with self-help groups. And coming to the last side, the impact and sustainability. So we are able to divert the major quantity of waste reaching opened up. We have been able to minimize. So they are really handling around 5 to 10 tons daily, and it will really save time and cost of transportation. So every decentralized waste management is very well located, and we are really cutting the cost of transportation. So our centralized plant is around 8 to 10 kilometers, and definitely we are saving the time and cost of transportation. And we are reducing, as I was telling you, very minimal 2 to 4% of units are sent to the landfill site, and resource recovery is good. And we have been able to create employment among the including the community participation there, and creating some employment. And this has been one of the place of research project. A lot of people come, and they have done now. Recently, University of Mysore has done a PhD on this particular decentralized waste management model, and this increases the efficiency of waste processing. So again, they increase the sale of city compost by creating a network to farmers. The city compost is very much in demand, and the farmers will not wait for 30 to 45 days. They come and directly take because our segregation is very good. They come and directly take the city compost even before completely composting it, because during harvest time, they come directly and take the city compost right from the zero waste management to giving around 700 per load.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nagaraj. This was really inspiring. And the most interesting part is that only 2 to 4% of your total waste is basically being sent to the landfill, which is exemplary. Great work, and it's truly an inspiration. And we look forward to showcase your good practice to the other cities so that they can learn from you. And Mysuru happens to be a very old partner of CSC. You have been part of our research, and you are also featuring in our forum of cities that segregate. So excellent. Many congratulations. Do stay with us because we are having questions, which some of them you may have to answer. So let me now invite the third panelist today. We are running a little behind time. So I would request the panelists with an apology to kind of restrict their discussion to about 10 to 12 minutes. Vaniji, I have basically two questions for you. You are a celebrity, so people know you. You are popularly known as the compost queen. You are an urban farmer for decade, and your campaign to solid waste management roundtable has been pivotal to kind of promote home composting, and it has been very widely appreciated and acknowledged. Home composting happens to be the best way to manage organic waste at source, which Dr. Raghupathy has also emphasized. And you have started it from your own house. So basically, you have walked the talk before you preached others to your neighborhoods, and you have then taken it to the next level, like schools, colleges, and other institutions. So please tell us about the journey, and what message would you like to give to the people of India and the city government? And the second part of my question is, how do we institutionalize home composting to create a sustainable economic model of solid waste management, and what role would you recommend for our city governments? But before I invite you to talk, if I may request Celeste to please introduce Vaniji.
Yes, so Vani Bhuti is an avid composter, urban farmer, and the sustainability practitioner. She is also a founding member of Solid Waste Management Roundtable Bengaluru. Ms. Vani is a leveraging social media to impact lakhs of people nationwide and achieve a phenomenal footprint of change. Over the years, she has featured in several newspapers, voicing the various issues and solutions related to solid waste management, and spoken on TEDx and many other platforms.
Thank you.
Over to you, Vaniji.
Thank you, Atin, and thank you, Sarishri. Good afternoon to each one of you. Thank you so much for having me on this panel. I'm no expert. I'm just a practitioner who is very passionate about composting. I mean, you all are talking about a large level, about policies and all. Those are all things that I really don't very much try to talk about, but it's basically how I can excite people about composting. So what we have seen over this period of time as human races, we put everything that don't belong to the soil into the soil, and what belongs to the soil we send it to landfills for it to pollute. So we are always going in the opposite direction when it comes to the climate and the environment and the ecosystem. And it's high time, I think we all need to understand that we need to take action, we need to take steps, and that's where we as Solid Waste Management Roundtable, as a public interest collective, have for the past 10 years looked at creating this awareness in the citizens. How do we get each person to take an action to make that little change in their homes, in turn making it for the city, for the state, for the country, and for the planet. So in this entire thing, the decentralized waste management is what we were trying to get across. 10 years back, we were talking about it, trying to create models, looking at how, one second. Sorry. How we could take across and get more and more people to participate. So this is actively engaging with the municipalities, and also creating those models that we so badly need by first being practitioners, not talking about anything that we don't practice. So the first thing is, visiting a landfill itself changed the way we looked at waste and got us all to start looking at, how are we going to keep it away? How can we say no to a landfill? How can we take responsibility of the waste we generate? So this is a loss of resource, mixed waste going out, so much of fuel being used and it's getting dumped and it is actually polluting. Instead, if everybody understands there is an impact of sending your waste out, and what changes can you do at your home? When you look at your waste and you audit your waste, when you see how much can you refuse, because you always talk about the reduce, reuse, and recycle. We have prioritized refuse as the first level of reducing the amount of trash we generate. So it is by saying no to anything that is single use. We have huge campaigns about bring your own bottle, bring your own stuff. Don't accept anything that is used once and discarded, because it's a huge loss of resource, plus it's creating trash. And that's been our first. And when we wanted this, segregation become, everybody talk about segregation being the most important thing in managing waste. We went to, of course, with a PIL into the court and got it mandated for the city of Bangalore. And we took the campaign across called the 2 bin 1 bag. That was designed in such a way that there is a uniform color-coded segregation happening in the city. Unless you segregate, you cannot do anything. So once that model went across, and it was then the DWCCs got set up, the dry waste collection centers, so that no waste leaves a ward. So there are 198 wards, and every ward was supposed to have one dry waste collection center. And then next, you have 60% of what you generate is the kitchen waste. So we came out with a campaign called the Swachhagraha, and this Swachhagraha actually started off with a challenge to the citizens, that this is the kit, that 1 week of waste, if you could keep away from sending it out to the landfill, just check out if you can manage to compost. Happens to the waste at the end of 1 week, you have effectively reduced the amount of garbage that you have sent out. So Swachhagraha also talked about 3 green spots. The first is to compost, the second is to grow something with the compost that you generate, and third is talk about the safe food. Today, soil where agriculture is grown is full of fertilizers, chemical fertilizers. There's no organic matter that's going back to soil, and we are all having toxic food. We are having poison on our plate. We don't know where our food comes from, and whether it's naturally grown or there is so much of pesticides and chemicals. So getting more and more people to start making choices about the food they eat became the third green spot, that is safe food. So even if you grew a tomato plant and a chili plant, you knew what you put into it. You made the compost yourself and you added to it, and then and that is the food that you need to grow, where the soil is full of life, full of the microorganisms, and encouraging life actually creates that nutrients for the plant to give it to you, and we are having the nutrition. So the cycle of nutrition is what we've been talking about. So once that got going, we had a lot of volunteers coming out in the city, throughout the city. Bangalore, in fact, people ask, what is it about Bangalore? You citizens are having such an amazing movement that you take across, and how quickly it spreads. And it is because we are passionate about what we talk about. And this Swachhagraha, has been an amazing program, went across to school. Then the trashnomics came across. Then communities started to, compost. There were large communities that it was mandated that if you are creating 100 kgs and above, you need to have within your community, you have to start composting. And what do you do with that compost? The excess compost, after they used in their landscaping, was left over, and a lot of people were wondering what to do. Then the program called the Compost Connect started, and that was like already we have Savita Hiramet, part of our team, who was already documenting different composting, large scale composting in her blog called Endlessly Green. And with that, we started looking at how we could connect the farmers to come and pick up the city compost at a very, very nominal rate, and assuring them that this compost is made with good practices of composting, not a 24-hour composting machine, which has created that compost. So this was something that we introduced, and of course Compost Connect is doing very well. Tons and tons of compost is being sent back to farmers who are putting it back into the soil where it actually belongs. So these were some of the things that we have taken across. And for me personally, talking about composting is very exciting. Doing workshops, especially with the pandemic, when the entire internet world opened up, the webinars, and I've never done any webinar before, but constantly we've been talking about it and getting more and more people to start that one action, and it's okay. It's an experiential learning, and composting is such a magical process. So that excitement to bring in, to get them to do composting at the home level has been tremendous, because we've seen people take it up, in spite of the challenges that compost can have. If that excitement and that experiential, wanting to experiment with something, if it is introduced to people, I think it's great. And at the city level, of course, we had the composting Sundays. That is every Sunday in a month, we had the municipality helping us create this kind of, in any park in around Bangalore, set up this compost Sunday where all the vendors came up with their solutions, and there were workshops, and everything was happening, and people who were coming to that event in the mornings were getting an awareness and creating that buzz around how we can all segregate and compost. So that also, so I think at a policy level there's one thing that's happening, but if it needs enforcement, a lot of things need to be strictly mandated, so that people also get a benefit. If the city says that if you compost and if you reduce the amount of waste that you're sending away, you get rebate, or you get something from that, your waiver for your tax. So all that could be a good incentive for people to take up composting, other than just thinking that they are doing a good deed. And today, with climate change and such a buzz around the world about activities that need to happen, this is the right time to push composting and tell you do one action a day, everyday action, to help reverse the climate change. We're having deadlines to reverse it. So I think if everybody, if the governments encourage composting actively by having a lot of programs, because composting needs a little hand holding, because many people don't get it right at the first time, but then just keep prompting them, give them encouragement, give them incentives. I think that would work magic. And if every citizen starts to compost, take responsibility of that organic matter, which would have otherwise got lost, and create that living soil and put it back to where it belongs, I think we would have done a fantastic job just saying my waste is my responsibility. And thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent, Vaniji. You are an inspiration, and I need not say that myself because it's already well known to everyone. Very strong and clear points, and very nice message to the cities to adopt something that you have initiated and you have worked for so many years now. Thank you so much. Please stay with us for a few more questions from the participants. So this brings me to the youngest member in the panelist, Saurabh. Saurabh is an old friend. So Saurabh, there are always disadvantage of being the last speaker. As you can see the clock, like we are supposed to complete this discussion by 4:30, but with kind permission of all the panelists, if I may extend it by say good 5-10 minutes, so that even after Saurabh finishes his discussion, we can take at least few questions from the participants. So Saurabh, my question to you is that you have played such a critical role, having known you personally. You set up community-led composting facilities in various parts of Jamshedpur Notified Area Committee, which is basically the extended part of the city, which is not under the jurisdiction or the service area of Tata. So you have worked with several residential welfare association. You have built their capacity. You have sensitized them. You have provided handholding support to the people so that they can manage these facilities themselves. So what strategy did you adopt, and what need to be done to implement this model at a larger scale by the cities in India? And then the second question is also connected to the compost, as I have asked this question to all the other panelists, like how the compost is getting utilized, that basically being produced by various facilities that you have facilitated to install, and where they are being sold, and who is buying them and at what price. Did you ever receive any support from the MDS scheme that Shaileshri mentioned in her presentation, and how this entire value chain is working basically around the compost in the area that you are working? But before I invite Saurabh to speak, if I may request Shaileshri to kindly introduce Saurabh briefly to the participants.
Sure. So Mr. Saurabh Kumar is a solid waste management expert in Jamshedpur Notified Area Committee and also a CEO of Towards Solution in Jharkhand. Mr. Saurabh is an experienced founder with a demonstrated history of working in the waste management services industry with many years of experience at Swachh Bharat Mission.
Over to you, Saurabh.
Okay, first of all, thank you. Thanks a lot to CSE. And it's my privilege to, speak with the guardians of the environmental sustainable fertility, I'll say, because whoever is in the audience must be doing Lakshmi ma'am and Vani ma'am. So I definitely enjoy that privilege. So let's start with the questions that you have just asked. I have like a very small presentation, I guess, that will cover all those things as well. So let me start with the city profile where I'm working here in Jamshedpur. So it has a population of roughly around 7.7 lakh, and it has a household of something around 1.5 lakh. But the good part over here is we are having more than 25 bulk waste generator who are doing the on-site composting. And in the last 3 years, we have successfully got a number more than 10,000 who are doing the home composting. So that gives a pleasure of working in a city that is, very much taken care by the Tata and Jamshedpur Notified Area Committee. So, I guess L3 has mostly covered everything about the decentralized, and after all the panelists, there is nothing to, just say, focus on what decentralized solid waste management is. But I'll definitely share what the doer, the initiator gets when they are doing it. Definitely, generally we say government nahi karti hai, it's their fault, municipality is not doing it. But here you can play your own role. If you are the one who wants to do something, if you're one who wants to contribute to the environment, who want to repay the resources that you are getting from the environment, this is one of the best solution that you can do. It's firstly independent of the city level practices. Whatever things is going on, it does not impact you. You can do it by your own or with the help of your society. It's volunteer driven. It does not always require, full-time work over there. More perks to initiator. This is what we have used in Jamshedpur as well, and other ULBs where we are working. There are political leaders who wants to, do their marketing as well, and this helps them to do their marketing because they are the one who are initiating, and they are taking the privilege of doing the composting at their own site. And definitely it gives you a self-satisfaction. You can just even I realized that I'm doing the home composting since the last 3 years, and I'm living in a small 2 BHK flat, and it's fairly doable there, and it gives you really a self-satisfaction, proud feeling, and it's economical. What I believe is the things that you are getting easily, the things that are easily available to you is one of the most required things for your life. Be it air, be it water. So same way, if you just go a few decades back, I'm in 30s, so I remember, so we need not to go many years back, just 10 years or 15 years back. In village, you would have easily found that they were just throwing all the wet garbage at one heap, and when the crop season comes, it already gets converted into compost, and they used to put it into their field. It was very easy, but by mixing, dry waste into this, and the time when we started getting lavish lifestyle, we started making lavish garbages as well, and we are mixing them, and this is destroyed. And since it is not easily available right now, that does not mean it is not required for us or for the environment. So this is definitely is the need of the time, and is the need for sustainable solution. Now, various solutions that we are using here in Jamshedpur and nearby ULBs, the pit composting and the drum composting, because what we believe is if it is required, then it must be easily available economically and in terms of technology as well. So we have not focused more on the more automated stuff, but we are focused on easily available, and that can be replicated by anyone who is just willing to do it. So this drum composting and pit composting is highly promoted by us. Pit composting is something that is in practice since not just a decade but centuries, and we have just formulated it, and it's well written in many guidelines. And right now, 6 of our RWAs are using pit composting, and it's pretty easy to do it. Just you can find any video on the YouTube, and many of Vani Murthinam as well. What are the things required for doing composting? All those nitrogen and carbon stuff. So just need to maintain that, and this has helped us in promoting RWAs to do the composting. So these are a few examples here in Jamshedpur. this is where we found some challenges, and there were many initiators for this vermicomposting, but later on we moved to pit composting because here worm do their work in pit composting or in drum composting. It's microbes who are doing I'll say without any pay, they are doing the work. But here we need to take care of the worms as well, and if it is not done properly, worm dies, or so the system fails. So we have right now not promoting that much of vermicomposting because it requires a proper care. So we are promoting pit composting. This is one of the apartment here. Drum composting is something that we are promoting a lot because you can easily find on Amazon or any e-commerce market. You can find it at a cost of 10K, and here we have started promoting at 5K. That is made available at the local level. So we are making it and selling it at just a cost of 5K, so that RWA can easily buy it and do it at their site. So OWC is fine. It takes a lesser time, but I had just read in the comment, people were asking composting is expensive in terms of taking the electricity cost and other things. But using drum composting, using pit composting, you can also compost, and you really need not to have any electrical connection for this. This is something that we are really proud of. Here in Jamshedpur, we have around 6 biodigesters installed at bulk waste generator, and many of the, I guess two of the restaurants, guest house is having this, and they have just reduced their fuel consumption by using this biodigester. And at city level, we are also moving towards this bio CNG from windrow composting. So as rightly said by Lakshmi ma'am, that biogas is something that needs to be promoted. And when you are into this segment, when you start doing composting at city level, then you realize you need the support from MDA, and otherwise, making compost costs us something around 3.5 to 5 or 4 rupees per kg, and the rate that we are getting from the market is something around 1.8 to 2 rupees per kg. But again, that's not a loss, because when we involve the cost that we have to pay when those garbage are thrown at the landfill, because it's not just the money, but the way we are harming the environment. The methane generated at the landfill, we all know it's 25 times more dangerous than CO2. So considering all those things, it's better for us to do composting, but we are moving a step ahead, and we are installing 100 TPD bio CNG at Jamshedpur, and that will definitely help us to move closer to a sustainable solid waste management. So here you can see the small scale biodigesters that were installed, and you can see one of our guardian, I'll say, in the environmental sector here for Jamshedpur, Mr. Gaurav Anand. He's also helping us a lot with his home composting and biodigester. He has also installed one of the smaller biodigester at his place. And how we achieved it. So technology and guidelines and people intervention, all these three things needs to go hands in hands. Otherwise, as we already heard, there were rules, there were rules laid down in 2016 as well. Since 2016 also we got Swachh Bharat Mission and Swachhta Sarvekshan, although it got highlighted in 2017. But things starts changing when all the stakeholders come on a single platform. So this is where we win as a citizen of Jamshedpur. We ran many campaigns like Compostian, and from time to time we try to utilize whatever the trends is going on. Like you can see, ye hum hai, ye hamara gila kachra hai, and ye hamara compost ban raha hai. So these things were promoted so that people get excited about composting. And Compostian, like something like Champion, was also promoted so that people get excited. But one thing apart from this that we have used is engaging the NGOs and non-profit organizations. Like we are having support from Rotary Club, Lions Club, and Swachhta Pukare has also played a vital role. These people are generally involved in river cleanliness drive, but just And we know like our drive cannot clean the whole river in a day or maybe in a years as well. But those people who are coming to those drives are getting motivated to do something towards the environment. And this helps us to drive them towards home composting. Or those who are responsible for their society to drive them towards the community level composting. Here we are having three city compost initiative. One is having 80 TPD, that is already producing something around 8 to 10 tons of compost every day. We are having around 30 TPD for vermicompost unit, and third one just came up is 25 TPD windrow composting. Coming to the question of getting support from the government, yes, we tried, and earlier it was difficult for us. But in this month, luckily, we got a communication from OVA that we can apply for NDA and we can avail 1,500 rupees per ton for selling the compost. Right now, most of the compost is sold to Coromandel and local vendors, and farmers are also directly purchasing from the city compost. So we were getting 1,600 rupees last year. This year it's 1,800 rupees per ton from the bulk purchaser, and from retail purchaser like nursery and local farmers, we are getting as much as high 2,800 rupees per ton for the compost. And yeah, there are challenges like regular testing for this, but farmers and others are not that much worried about this. But the bulk purchaser, they do their testing at their own facility, so we have not to worried about them as well. So these all things went hand in hand with the technology, with the support from the citizens and the ULB support as well, like continuous, communication to bulk waste generator that they have to do their, they have to manage their compost and wet garbage at their own place, and whoever is generating more than 100 kg per day, we are not allowed to give their wet garbage to door-to-door garbage collecting vehicle. So these things helped Jamshedpur to achieve one of the top 10 rank, and we were 7th rank in the city range of 3 lakh to 10 lakh population. So we are thankful to the citizen of the Jamshedpur. We are proud Jamshedpurians who are doing the home composting, and we have a target of doing bringing 7,000 more participants for this home composting. And recently we have opened a place where excess compost can be dropped, and in exchange they can get some saplings. So we are looking forward to have more such initiatives. And thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Saurav. This was really inspiring, and these ground level examples needs to be showcased so that other cities and other institutions, even NGOs, the civil societies, neighborhoods, they can learn from it. So excellent. I have exhausted my time and I have overshot the time that basically I was supposed to use by good 12 minutes, but with kind permission of all the panelists, if I can extend it by another 5 minutes. So let me now bring in my colleague, Subhashish Parida. Subhashish is a program manager with Solid Waste Management Program in CSC, and we all work in the same team. And Subhashish is also an author of the report along with Celestri that we have released today. So Subhashish, if you can quickly pick some of the questions. I mean, we may not, I can see there are about 16 questions in the Q&A box. I didn't check the chat box separately. So if you can quickly take some of them and direct them to the panelists. Over to you, Subhashish.
Sure, Atin. I will just read the question. So the first question is for Lakshmi ma'am. So there is a question is why there is lack in implementation, and can there be strict rule which enforces the segregation of waste so that the residents as well as other stakeholders can thoroughly involve in that practice of source segregation?
Yes, I agree that there is a lack of enforcement mechanism. Actually, the plan of enforcement mechanism has not been worked out very well, because the rule is notified by Ministry of Environment, the manual is prepared by MOUD, the municipal authorities are under them. So there was a lot of disconnect. Now all of them are merging. So I think it will not take another much time now And there is these sort of forums actually give a conscious effort. People say, no, I also want to do. So that stimulus is also getting, now the message is getting across. So it will improve. And the other defect is that we have not penalized. The penalties have not been exactly imposed. Though they say littering, you are penalized. If you don't give tipping fee, nobody, and they should not. I have seen in Bangalore myself, the fellow doesn't collect because there was my brother-in-law passed away. So there was a feast and all. We had to segregate the plastic cups and the patta, in the keleka patta in which we eat. So we had to give them separately. Otherwise the fellow refuses. So the collector himself takes a responsibility. That kind of a thing will work. So we have to educate everybody. We have neglected a lot of tiers of people who are involved in the whole process. So slowly it's picking up. So I think in due course of time, though it is quite delayed from 2016 to 2020, 5 years have happened. So, but when we couldn't do anything much between 2000 and 2014, 14 years, we just couldn't do much. So let's hope we'll do something now. And it is picking up. And some documents like this, this brief ones, which should be communicated and sent across to the education institutions, schools, colleges. It's a new generation we should prick. Actually, we have to teach the younger generation more so that it becomes a practice with them. They don't have to put any efforts. So once it goes, they will tell their parents not to do it. I have seen in schools when I do the program, they go and jolt their parents across, say, "Mama, mixed waste mat do, nahi dena." So they are more alert. So we'll do that. We should do that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So the next question is for Dr. Nagaraj. So the question is how the decentralized waste management played a role in reduction of taxation on the citizens of Mysore Municipal Corporation, and what are the IC activities you have taken care to create the awareness among the citizens to adopt this decentralized model?
Of course, Mysore City Corporation has always been very proactive involving the community participation. We have already incentivized the public for promoting home composting. Mysore City Corporation is handholding and promoting home composting by providing the cocoa peat powder initially for first 6 months, so that the house will get practiced, and we are giving them the network for getting the cocoa peat for further sustaining the home composting, and even for adopting biogas in their households. So we are giving 25% rebate from their property tax, and thereby we are promoting these best practices like home composting, having biogas units in their households. So that is the way how Mysore City Corporation has been able to successfully carry on the sustainable practices. And regarding IEC, so Mysore City Corporation has always been a forerunner. It's not just during conservation or the some programs. We have a many events. So any event that carries on in Mysore, there will be a regarding the solid waste management. It may be source segregation or whatever best practices the community has to engage. So even that events also, we always go to the organizers and talk regarding the zero waste concept. So that is regarding awareness. We are very keen, and people have started. We have a culture of we have inculcated a culture, so that when we lost the first ranking in the social selection in the year 2020, people started asking, so where have people gone wrong? So that particular moment, and the moment is there among the people, and they expect a lot by taking a lot of awareness activities, and we are involving all the civil societies, most of the NGOs in carrying out our IC awareness activities.
Thank you very much, sir. So the next question is for Vani ma'am. So the question is about that why in the current situation, all the cities are aiming for the smart cities. What best can be done for every stakeholder level to manage the waste?
What was the question?
So ma'am,
last part of it.
Yeah, ma'am, where all the cities are currently in the current situation are targeting for the smart city, but they are not able to manage the waste properly. So what are the things they can do to manage the waste from their household level to in a bigger level?
Right. I think basically everybody has to start becoming more responsible, reduce the amount of waste, especially large scale functions. I mean, there should be a kind of a rule that, even functions where so much of garbage comes out, right, from government functions to public functions to private functions, where people gather and there's so much of mixed waste that's coming out. So strict rules about using reusables. We have to have go back to a culture where everything was reusable, and reduce the amount of trash, get segregation, like enforcement, like you will, like ma'am said, there has to be fines if you don't segregate, because most people say even if I segregate, they get mixed up. So both levels, on the level of the collector, the municipal collector, and the household level, they have to take it as a very, very important part of managing the city's waste. If citizens don't participate, it becomes very, very difficult to do anything, because most of the resources are getting lost when segregation is not happening, and you're not diverting it away, and destination based pickups and collection and transportation has to be done. So I think putting systems in place, if even if citizens want, there is no it's not aligning to what's happening on the ground level. Plus the government also should come out with very, very strict regulations on how waste needs to be collected. You cannot collect mixed waste. It should be on different days, different kinds of waste. I think you have to streamline the whole thing. I think then it will work, but it needs a lot of effort. Sometimes certain you have mafias, you have so much government moves, somebody else comes and he has to start understanding the whole thing, the next commissioner or whatever. Things I think should fall in place, and there should be a uniform way to have this going. I mean, as a citizen, that's what I feel.
Thank you, ma'am. So the question is for Saurabh. So the question is about how can we promote or inspire communities for source segregation and composting? And is the compost valuable enough to be a primary source of income for organization, or if it can help a organization financially?
So the first thing, how to promote this source segregation. Rules, regulations are there since 2016, and using these SBM guidelines also, it has got restricted, but implementation is something that we really need to think about. But as we said, it's done easily when we want to do it rather than someone else is forcing on us. So I guess rather than promoting and making awareness among the people who has already lived their 20s or 30s, it's better to target children or students, because as Vani ma'am and Lakshmi ma'am also focused on this. So they are the young one who really can grasp the new things that needs to be done to the environment. When we organize any awareness campaign to the elders, they generally say, I know everything. And that's a problem. They know everything. To the children, they are looking to learn new things, and there we can help them. And to our success for these more than 10,000 households doing home composting, it's not the adults who are doing it. It's a more number among the children or among the youngsters below 20s. They are promoting and they are doing, because they are taking the feeling of ownership to the environment. They are not just saying ki it's your work, it's a government work. They always ask what I can do, and there we show them the way. Yeah, this is the thing that at least you can do at your level, and these things helps whenever we go to RWA to do any awareness. We never asked to collect all those who are elder or who are a retired person, but we generally look for the children and do the awareness among them. So that is helping us. Now coming to the second, that also sometimes motivates the elders to do the composting at the level, at the community level. Right now, we are giving 10% discount in their user charge collection if they are not giving their wet garbage to us. Although there is a rule that we will not collect, but sometimes they find one way or another way to give wet garbage into door-to-door garbage collection vehicle. So if they are doing home composting, they are incentivized in that way. And that helps. Let's say if you are having 3,000 per month, the user charges, they can easily save 300 rupees just in user charge. And now we have initiated this exchange policy. If you are giving compost worth it, like say 100 rupees, you can get saplings worth 100 rupees. So that's initial phase. We are about to conceptualize it and make it a more robust system. So these two things will definitely help community level and individual level composting as well. Because in India, we are generally worried about the money and what we'll get in return. So we have initiated this to give something in return to the RWS and to the individual. So these things are helping us, and I hope these things will help others as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Saurabh. So my last question is to Lakshmi ma'am. So ma'am, the question is, the main reason of poor utilization of the compost is due to the lack of support from various departments like agriculture and other departments, who plays a very important role in promoting the organic compost. But however, they are promoting chemical fertilizers more. So how to get these organizations involved to promote the organic compost which are generated from this kind of activity?
Basically, after this 2016 rules, in about 2018, 2 years after that, there was a lot of interaction between agriculture department of the various states. And they were also called for these workshops, they were also participating in that. So they were very much interested in knowing how to market these composts and how to do a quality test, because that was very important. It should not be very acidic or alkaline so that it may harm the plants. So that is the question mark in their mind. So finally, we found out what was irking them from taking it. They said that the standardized thing, they put the thing. So now there is a requirement that Ministry of Urban Development is introducing on all those composts and packets. Samples will be taken, tested, and then they will be certified composts, which will be available for bulk users, especially the farmers and all. So household users, we can even test and run and all that, and we know what we have put in, so we don't have much problem. But for the bulk users, they said if it is going to be bulk composting, that is going to be reaching them. And any surplus composting, everywhere we are trying to see how to put the receiving end, some container or some material where they can put the surplus compost that they have prepared. Even within the household, when I start composting, it starts growing. So it's much more than what I require. So I try to distribute it amongst my friends. Instead of that, we can put it in a common area. We are trying to do that, and that would be better. So that kind of a certification will be now available. So probably they're working on it. They're trying to see, and it may be even included in the regulations, because regulatory, if you make it too rigid, then it becomes difficult, because there may be a variation depending on what is input waste. Here it's organic matter. So it is not going to be very homogeneous like the chemical matter which we give them, the chemical fertilizer. We have made that we have made them clear. They have accepted it. So now anything organic we can give that this is the particular thing and they can use it. So that certification will start, I think, in another 2-3 months or so.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Atin, I'm done with my questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Subhashish. I understand there were many more questions which we couldn't answer just for want of time. We have already overshot by close to half an hour. So my apologies to all the panelists for overshooting it. And my apologies to the participants as well, because I mean, we should have tried to at least restrict ourselves to the time. But nevertheless, we had a fascinating discussion, and there are so many dimensions. I mean, Lakshmi ma'am, Vani ji, Dr. Nagraj, Saurabh, all of them basically brought different dimensions, on the table. So there is no, I mean, we probably can agree unanimously that decentralization of the current waste management practice is probably need of the hour. And then source segregation has to be something non-negotiable. It should not be left on choice, right? If we can make Aadhaar card mandatory for all the citizens in the country, so that way we can also enforce source segregation. And like Dr. Raghupati, Vaniji, and Saurabh also mentioned that we have to find out ways how do we incentivize source segregation in the way of property tax or otherwise, so that people start and then the traditional approach of addressing solid waste management problem through technologies. We do need technologies. There's no denial about that. But the first attempt should be made to adopt this three golden principle. These are much more discussed, but very least implemented, right? This is basically what we have learned. And then landfill is something that is given as a free gift to the concessionaire if there's a concessionaire on board, or if the city is managing it themselves. So it's kind of a one-stop solution that we collect and dump, right? So there has to be some mechanism, like you introduce landfill tax. So you have to pay for the quantity of waste that you are bringing in over there, right?
Yeah.
So these are some of the key issues. We definitely have to keep pushing it. I mean, we will stay on top of it. And thank you so much for coming on board and sharing the wealth of your experience and expertise. It was a fascinating discussion to be a part of. I got to learn so much personally from all of you. And thank you for releasing our report. Now you have the report. So please do let us know if there is any feedback, if there's any way we can further improve it. We'll keep this engagement going even with the regulators. And we would seek guidance from Dr. Raghupati, utilizing her association with the ministry for such a long time. And thanks to Dr. Nagaraj for showcasing such a wonderful initiative. And we would look forward to have you again on board, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks to all the participants for joining us. And again, my apologies for the question that we haven't been able to answer. But since you have registered using your and you have given your contact details like phone numbers and emails, so we'll try and find out ways to reach back to you with the answers, whichever way we can at the soonest possible. And before I end this discussion, I just would like to convey my concern and a bit of a caution that COVID is again showing sign of coming back. There are states and cities where the numbers are increasing. Even abroad, the situation is in the US, the situation is getting worse by every day or every hour, you can say. So please continue to take precautions and don't take it lightly ever. So try to stay safe, because as long as we are safe and we are following the safety protocol, so we can probably avoid another wave in our country. So thank you so much. Please do take care and stay safe. And we would look forward to have you on board in our next event. Thank you.